PJ Campbell. I'm a publishing consultant and author and speaker. And the book that we're going to use in the clip is Booked to Death, An Author's Guide to Publishing and Murder.
Can I add that once more, please, actually?
Oh, okay. PJ Campbell, publishing consultant, author, and speaker. The book we're going to use in the clip is Booked to Death, An Author's Guide to Publishing and Murder.
All right, so you are the author of 101 Author Tips, Creating a Successful Book Campaign. What 5 tips would you give a new author?
Well, honestly, the first thing that you really have to look at, and I believe is the overarching umbrella to everything that an author does, and in most businesses, is your relationships. First, the relationship that you have with the book. Do you love it? Are you proud of it? Are you passionate about it? And then taking it down from there, how are you going to strategically put out your book? So you need to create a marketing and sales and publicity plan first. After you've created that plan, then it starts with implementing it. So you look at your relationship with your website. Do you have a website? Do you have a website just for the book? Is the book prominent on your own website? How many people are you connecting with on your website? Do you have advertisers, affiliates? So it's about a website. The next thing I would ask you to take a look at are your email lists. Do you have enough people to reach out to? Are you thinking about buying an email list? The advantage about an email list is that you reach out to people in a more personal way, and it actually is and can be a better influencer than just reaching out in other modes of contact. So do you have an email list? How many contacts are on your email list? Are you considering buying an email list? One of the best ways to get out an email blast is using a constant contact service. They're terrific about putting out email lists. Okay, I'm going to break here. And the next thing I want to talk about, okay, do you have any people that you can contact to endorse or review your book? So do you have any name authors, particularly in the genre that you're publishing in? Do you have any VIPs, people who might be interested in the content of your book, who could promote it to their own lists, members, associates, that sort of thing? Okay, break. Okay. The next relationship, which is probably the most influential, let's start over. The next influencer and big relationship that you have, particularly today, is through social media. Are you on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram? How many followers do you have? How many connections do you have? Are you updating your timeline in a frequent manner, but not too frequent? So it's recommended maybe 3 to 5 times a week. What about your content? Are you engaging your followers and connections? Are you engaging them enough that they're talking about you on their own timelines? These are all things to consider about social media. The other thing to consider when talking about your book on social media is to take a look at the demographics of your social media contacts. What I mean by that is, if you've written a book on baking, are a lot of your followers in the food industry? Are there restaurants listening to you? Are there foodies, bakers, bakeries? And if so, are they willing to talk about your content? Is it pertinent to what they're interested in? So social media has become pretty much the #1 way and means for establishing and cultivating your relationships. A blog. Do you write a blog? If you're writing a blog, that too has to be updated several times a week. How many people are subscribing to your blog? Do you have advertisers or affiliates with your blog? Do you know other bloggers that are interested in your content? And are they willing to interview you and perhaps create a blog tour? This could be really big and produce a lot of sales. The next item I would talk about are events. Whether you're doing an event online or in person, which is live, you really need to know who you're directing that event to. Who's your demographic again? How are you going to get the message out about your event? There are many ways to do that, and I would suggest that you take a hard look whether you're looking online to do events or virtual events. But make sure that you do your homework and how to reach out to those people. The idea behind events, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it takes a lot of planning. The next thing I would talk about is publicity. I would highly recommend, if you can afford it, to hire a publicist for at least the first 6 to 8 weeks that your book is going to be released, preferably 2 weeks prior to the release of the book, and then follow through for at least 6 weeks. It's a huge advantage, but many of us can't do that. So what should you do? You can create an EPK, which is you can create an electronic press kit, which is an EPK. That can be sent out over the wire through PR Wire and or HARO, which is HARO, Help a Writer Out. Great resources for pushing out a lot of information and publicity about your book. Now we're going to talk about sales. Sales. Well, if you've been doing everything that we've just talked about, sales should be the natural thing to follow, wouldn't you say? Well, sales only happens if you have done your homework. You have to know first, how is your book going to be distributed? Is it going to appear online at online outlets? Is it going to be in brick and mortar stores? How about specialty stores, organizations, corporations, clubs? Where is it going to appear? Is it going to be in libraries? Is it going to be distributed by a wholesaler? Will it be available through, Will your book be available through wholesalers such as Ingram and Baker and Taylor? You must know, and it's important to know, how your book is going to be distributed, because in that demographic distribution is how you know how to target your sales for your particular book. So your book is out. This is the time for you not to be shy. And if you are an introverted person, then I would highly recommend that you hire someone to shout the news about your book from the rooftops. You've done a lot of work on it, and it's time to really get the word out. The time to get the word out on your book is actually at least 6 to 8 weeks before it hits the bookstores, or the bookshelves, if you will, or online outlets. And the reason for that is it's a time the reason to get your book out is, the reason to announce your book 6 to 8 weeks prior to it hitting any online outlets or in the brick and mortar stores is about 6 to 8 weeks prior to that release. The reason that you do this is that you can create what we call pre-buzz and pre-orders. If you have a number of pre-orders, such as on Amazon or other outlets that are offering your book, this then sends a message to not only potential book buyers and readers, but also to the publisher that has produced your book, that they're considering possibly of reprinting your book. Building pre-buzz in any form is always a good thing to do. The other thing that some authors make the mistake of is waiting too late to promote and publish, It's important to take a proactive approach. That's what I really want to say to you. So don't be shy. Get out there, promote the book 6 to 8 weeks ahead of its release, and then the first 6 weeks that the book is actually made available for purchase are crucial. And even beyond that, the first 2 weeks are critical. Beyond that, you have what we call in publishing a 3-month window of opportunity where your book is still considered to be relatively new. And if you are trying to get publicity or media attention, that is the time. It's also the time where bookstores or other venues will be most interested in hosting an event for you because you're still what they call new. The number one thing in having a successful author appearance is being prepared. How do you get prepared? Rehearse what you're going to do. Start working on it at least a month ahead of time so that when you are standing in front of your audience, whether it is online or live, you can actually be engaged with them, looking directly at them, making eye contact. You can also be passionate about your book. This is the time. Don't hold back. And through your passion and your emotional connection to your audience, you are engaging them at a 55% communication level. That's right. That is how strong your body language is. when you are engaged in front of an audience. It's 55% of all communication. The next big chunk of communication with your audience is your tone. That's 38% of what they're listening to and how they're going to engage and react to you. So in other words, if you're stiff, if your posture is stiff and you speak in a monotone voice, well, guess what? You're going to put your audience to sleep. So get out there, be engaged, talk with your body, and use every tone that you have that makes sense to your presentation. That's the best way to do it. The other aspect of having a very successful author appearance, whether you're standing in front of a live audience or online, is to make sure with that hosting venue, what are the expectations? What do you expect, and what do you expect the venue to do? Have they ordered the book? Have they ordered enough books? I really can't stress enough how important it is to get everything that you're doing in the support, I can't stress enough how important it is to really get that information between you and the hosting venue down in writing. Exchange an email, cross off every point on your list to make sure that they are doing their job and that you're living up to their expectations as well. Okay, I've got like 3 headers, and then I have a list of 25 elements that I would love to share with people as a summary. Okay? And I'll explain a few of them, but a lot of them we've already talked about now, but I think it's good for them to have like a bulleted list to make sure, because these are the key elements of putting a proposal together. A proposal can be anywhere from 6 to 15, 20 pages long, depending on your own personal approach and all of the elements that you want to include and how elaborate you want to get. There really isn't a finite suggestion on how long a book proposal can be. So let's just talk about a few of the elements at first. So one of the things that an author really needs to do before putting a book proposal together is to research who they are actually pitching it to. Have they looked at the agents and the publishers and discovered what types of books and their content they are actually representing and publishing? So many authors make the mistake of pitching an agent or a publisher with their book when their content doesn't even come close to anything that's being represented by those particular outlets, either an agent or a publisher. So first of all, do your homework. Once you've done your homework, then you start to put the elements of the proposal together. And it really does start with a big overview, if you will, of what your book is about and the content. Part of the proposal, and it really does require you to be very, very diligent in doing your homework, but part of the proposal is first that opening query letter or cover letter, if you will, that really talks very briefly, succinctly, passionately about who you are, why you're the best person to write this particular book, and why it's the best book for them to pay attention to, whether it's an agent or a publisher. Okay? Okay. The next item is, once you've laid out who you are, why the book is already going to be a winning book on the bestseller list, you really have to go into the details about what your strategic plan is. We talked about that a little bit ago. So it involves your marketing, your publicity, events, your sales approach. How are you actually going to make this book a winning bestseller book? Okay? So what I'd like to share with you are about 25 different elements of the key components of what I feel makes a winning book proposal. And they go like this. So the first one is, and I do have to kind of refer to this, I'm sorry. Okay, you can't see this, right? Okay, so the first thing is the book description and the overview, then the author bio, then who is the intended audience? Make sure that you really state that clearly. Have there been other books that they would consider competitive of your title, but your book is like a competitive title, Are there other books that are like your book? So in other words, who is your competition? What's good about that is if you can show a potential publisher or an agent that a book like yours has been a bestseller or has sold well, but your book is unique and different enough, then they will be interested in taking a closer look.
Hold off on that, 'cause just so everyone's
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm surprised we waited this long without it.
I'm so used to ignoring it. You know?
It's good to admit it.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But let's let it clear.
Okay.
Unless you're looking for
How we doing time-wise, Nicole? Are we good?
I was gonna try to make a sign. So
Can I see your book up for a second? Right there.
Brandon, are you from Indianapolis too?
No, I'm actually from Yonkers.
Yonkers. Oh,
That's
wow.
where I live now, yeah.
Oh, okay.
From the Poconos, if you know what the Poconos are.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful down there.
Yeah.
Boy, I bet they got a lot of snow.
They actually did pretty well.
How are you going to show your book? You're going to show it up? You're going to bring it up a little bit?
I don't know. Is that a good place for it,
Well,
Brandon?
you
You
can
can
bring
have it
it.
a little higher.
You'll bring it up when you talk about it, right?
Okay, like here?
No, higher. Just let your.
all right.
Well, not too
That's-
high. I don't want
Yeah,
it to
that's
be
good.
obtrusive
Okay.
either.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Is that a good
Yeah.
position
Okay,
for
great,
it?
thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good deal. So jump back in. You have
Okay.
just finished with.
I had just finished with
Number 4,
competition.
I think,
Yeah. Okay.
Were you on number 2?
No, I was on number 4.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. The next element to consider, the next element to consider are special marketing and outlet opportunities. Then after that, I would like you to look at your websites and social media, sponsors, affiliates, promotional opportunities, endorsement lists, advertising that you might be considering. Is there anybody on your list that might be interested in bulk purchases? Your email lists, premium purchase outlets, and how could you actually offer added value? Would you be willing to do an audio or create your book or an added value, added value? Would you be willing to do an audio clip of your book, even if it's just a chapter? How about a brief DVD explaining and talking about your book? Or even a downloadable talk about your book that any potential people who are buying your book could offer as what we call added value. Excuse me. What about having a contest on your social media to promote your book, give away free copies? It's a very fun thing to do. A lot of people get engaged in it. Have you thought about creating an app for your book? A lot of people are doing that today, and that could be a fun thing to do.
Sorry, give it a second.
No, it's okay.
All right, you were at. That can be a fun thing
Yes.
to do.
Okay. Yes, app. Okay.
Hold on, wait for the door.
It's good. So I can close it over.
Okay.
Okay. So after app. Okay.
Mhm.
How about a blog? Are you a contributor to any magazines or newspapers or online outlets? Have you had any previous media? Meaning, have you been interviewed anywhere previously? Those are connections that you might have that you might be able to call on for this particular book. How about a book trailer? And then wrapping up your social media, the marketing and the publicity support, sort of tying a big bow around it. And then, of course, have you been a speaker before? Whether it's about another book or just in general. Are you a speaker? Are you a professional speaker? How are you going to support your current book through a speaking agenda? And then lastly, and probably the most important thing that people are going to really want to know, because you're the person who knows, what is the reason that they should actually publish your book? I mean, really, what's it mean? who's going to be interested in it? So again, it's wrapping it up by the reasons to publish it, and then offering them a look at what are the sales handles of your book. How should it be sold into particular outlets? Those are the 25 Those are the 25 elements of a winning book proposal.